Hello there, welcome back to The Closet Historian. Today is a long-awaited video, I know for some of you, a handful of you, and a long, dreaded, and procrastinated video for me, because today I'll be showing you how I draft a basic block sloper bodice, front and back, two-dart bodice pattern from measurements, basically from scratch, from a blank piece of paper, and measurements, and a ruler, and patience, and luck. However, I'm going to be doing this, kind of my way, the way that I approach this kind of thing. And as a bit of background, I started as a home sewer. Then I went to fashion design school, apparel design school. I have a degree in apparel design from a state university here in Colorado. And I also studied at a private university in LA for a little while. I studied abroad in London at a fashion school there. I studied in Paris for a summer. So I've studied in many different cities, and none of those fashion programs did they ever expect me to make anything above a size 02 dress form thing. So when I've ever made a basic block in my training days at university, I was always making them for a standardized dress form, like a fashion design dress form, and a very small one at that. Smaller than, I was making clothes for my classes that I couldn't wear, certainly because they were expected to fit the dress form to show that you knew how to do that. But of course, they never actually taught us to fit things to real people. So I have only ever made a basic block, a sloper pattern for dress forms and for me, which means I do not have a huge wealth of experience making these in normal human sizes, in plus sizes, for children, for men. These are things I've never done. So I've only ever made basic blocks for my shape and for the standard small little fashion dress form shape. So that means I may not be able to answer all of your questions, but luckily we have the internet. That's right. So when you stumble across a problem, maybe I'll talk a little bit in this video about how I Google specific fit issues to be able to find the answers you need, because the internet is a huge resource. And of course, there are many people who are much more expert in this kind of thing than I am. But people have requested I make this video, and I'm finally going to do it. Hopefully, I'll be able to be a little bit more concise than I'm already being over here. We'll see. We know how I ramble, but some of you seem to find my sorts of instructions helpful, so hopefully they'll be helpful today. The reason I want to preface that I've only ever made these for a standardized dress form or for myself is because that is how I like to draft blocks from scratch, is from a standardized measurement chart as opposed to my own measurements, or let's say a client or person's measurements. I think it's easier to draft a block from a standardized set of measurements from a book, from a fashion instruction book, which is what we're doing today, and then modify the resulting block to fit. So let's say the size on the chart, you go off of a larger measurement. So let's say for me, I'll choose a size whatever, and that has the bust at 42, and the waist might be at 32 as well. And my waist is actually 30, so I'll have to do some adjusting to the eventual block. But just proportionally, so the block comes out making sense, I usually use a standardized size from a chart to draft the block and then fix the block to fit me afterwards. So that is what I will be going through today in general. I'm already lost, and it's only just me. Let's jump on over to the patterning table of doom and get started. Okay, here we are over on the blue patterning table of doom as usual. And today we'll be patterning from the most scratch of scratch here. We're just gonna have our lovely alphanumeric paper here. You can use any paper as usual. In fashion school, I got very used to using alphanumeric paper. It's not that expensive to buy, and it comes in a nice big wide width of a roll, so I still get some. I will put the link to where you can buy alphanumeric paper on a roll in the description below. And I will also be linking to this book that I'm going to be using today. This is Pattern Making for Fashion Design by Helen Joseph Armstrong. I mention this book here on my channel all the time, and it was my textbook, again, when I was in apparel design school. So I highly recommend this book for pattern drafting. I still use it to this day. There's a lot of things that you see me do here on the channel all the time, like adding or moving around darts, adding fullness, splitting patterns apart, adding let's say a yoke or panels, things like that. Things I feel very comfortable doing without referencing this book anymore. But when I need to do something that I haven't done in a long time, I will come back to this and I will look up how to do it. Today we are going to be drafting the basic pattern set, the front and back bodice pattern sloper basic bodice block situation. You've seen me use mine all the time here on my channel. I have it on black poster board. People always ask me what this is. It is, again, just black poster board like you would make a presentation for class on. But I just traced my bodice pattern onto this. This is my front bodice block piece. I'm going to be showing you how I make a front and a back today, of course, the full bodice. The full pattern set is to have the bodice front and back, a sleeve, and then also this skirt front and back, but today we're going to be focusing mostly on the bodice. And to do so, we will be using a set of measurements from this book. Now, technically you can draft a block using your measurements if you have them. And I have my measurements here that we will be referencing today when doing this block from scratch from, you know, just paper, pen, this book, and a lot of patience. I also have a clear ruler here. I quite like these ones. They're not that expensive. I think it's worth it to have if you plan on doing any pattern drafting. You can use a regular ruler if you want to, but I think these ones are nice to have. You can usually find them in the drawing area of a craft store or at fabric stores. They usually have these because people use a lot of straight lines for quilting as well, so usually fabric stores will have rulers like this as well, so I recommend picking up one like this. Plus it's nice to have an 18-inch ruler or longer. A yardstick is a little unwieldy, but having a longer ruler is useful for this. Having just a little 12-inch ruler gets to be annoying, and you'll see why during this process. I also have a pencil, some different colored pens today to use because I think it'll be hard when I'm drafting on the table due to this setup for you to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to do some colored markers today. I have paper scissors here, and then again my alphanumeric paper. A couple more things to note. I will be doing this in imperial measurements today, of course, because I am from the United States, where we use imperial things, inches and sixteenths and all that fun stuff. So added to this fun will be fractions instead of decimals, so we'll get way into that. They do make these rulers in centimeter as well, because I had one when I was studying abroad, in France, I think it was, when I was using centimeters. I've studied fashion in America, in London, UK, and also in Paris, France, so I can't really keep straight where I had to use centimeters and where I had to use imperial. I think here in the UK it's imperial, and then in France it was metric. I get a bit confused. I know it's metric in France, but in the UK they sell fabric by the meter instead of by the yard. It all gets very confusing, but today I'll be using inches, so I apologize to my friends who use the metric system out there, because today will be very confusing for you. It's confusing for everyone, but additionally confusing for you. Second disclaimer being, please consider renting from your library or buying a copy of this book, because I will be using the recipe from this book to do today's video, to do this pattern, and I feel bad sharing that recipe from this book with you, and I will not be monetizing this video because I feel bad sharing so much of this process, which is Helen Joseph Armstrong's process, and not mine. So please consider picking up a copy of this book. Again, I will link to it in the description, and know that I am just following these instructions, and that will come with its own bits of limitations as well. Another point to note here is that when we get over to this size chart that I will be using today, this size chart, I'll be using the largest size it goes to, the size 18 here. You can see this highlighter here is on size 16. That used to be my size when I first did one of these blocks, but now, several years later, I think an 18 is more appropriate. I like to draft block patterns from standard measurement charts instead of using my exact measurements. I take my measurements as best as I can, all by myself, because I don't have an assistant or friend, and that's not the best way to measure yourself, honestly, and that's probably the reason that if I were to make a block with these measurements, and I've done it before, it doesn't something always goes a little bit wonky and wrong, and so I think it's easier to draft from a standardized measurement chart that may not match you exactly, and then fix the resulting pattern to fit you, as opposed to trying to just draft a perfect pattern of your, to fit you perfectly from measurements. I think that's much more difficult than it is to just use a standardized set of measurements and then modify that resulting pattern to fit you afterwards. So that is what I'm going to be doing. So if you look at my measurements here, for this is actually old measurements too. I didn't retake these today, so this may not be perfectly accurate to me anymore, but it's what we're going to be using. It says here bust 41.5, waist 30, hip 44. So just knowing those three very basic measurements, I can go ahead here on this chart, figure out which one is starting to look like it's going to fit me best. And so down here at size 18, it says bust 42.5, waist 34, and then hip 44. I want to go off the larger measurements and find one that fits along the larger measurements, and then I can size the waist down. Anyway, again, I'm sure many of you are like, hey, I need this side of the chart mate, like when, and I have looked in this book, and unfortunately it doesn't seem that it has a additional chart from here on, which is like, you know, most humans are on this half of the chart, the invisible side. It does look like there, I will screenshot in here a photo from this book talking about where you can get the standardized. This is based off of like measurements of many humans to find these standard measurements. And there are charts using those statistics for larger sizes, for like women's and women's plus size sizes as well. And those charts are apparently available from the people who make this nonsense. You might be able to find size charts also online, or you can just go ahead and use your measurements and hope for the dang best. I'm really sorry I don't have additional information. I'm just working off this book. This is what I have in my library. Luckily for me, the last largest size will work for me. But I know this is very restrictive when it comes to sizing, especially myself even being the largest size available. So I'm almost off this chart as well, and I think many people would be. But this is what the chart I have, and this is the book I have. This is the way I have to do it. Again, I am not an instructor by trade. I am a student by trade in some ways, so I'm just sharing this with you so that you can get an idea of how I have done this in the past, how I do it, and how you can also do it. Down here in the fine print on the bottom of this chart, it also says patterns available for purchase. So basically, some out there from this website, patternsforsale.com, I haven't checked to see if that website even works, people make sloper and bodice block patterns based off of standard measurements. So I have a whole other video here on the channel, I will put a card up to that here, where I talk about taking a very standard bodice, darted bodice pattern and modifying it into a basic block sloper. I think that is the easier way to do this, much easier than having to do it from scratch like we're going to do today. And so I will link to that video if that sounds much more up your alley. But if you're interested in to see how those block patterns come together, what happens to create them, this is going to be today's video. I've been putting this one off for a long time because numbers, you know what I mean? That, I think, is all my disclaimers for now. I might think of something else later. We'll see how it goes. So again, looking at my measurements, my best option is to draft based on the size 18 in this book. So that is the size I will be making today. And then what I do is I draft a standardized one, then I will make a muslin out of that pattern and then fit that muslin to me. How much of that I'm going to be including in this video, I'm not sure, because I already have my block that I have that fits. I don't need to make another one. And fitting something like this is a completely different skill than just being able to draw it, but I will talk about that more later. For now, let's go ahead and get started. Crazy enough. Again, I'm just following these instructions today. Just gonna try and get in frame here so that I can reference this as I go. First things first, we're gonna want a straight line to work off of, you know? So let me see, where should I come so that I'm in frame here? I'm gonna be along this line of ones. We're gonna need a straight line to start with, and I will go ahead and do that in blue for us so that we can see, hopefully on camera. Okay, now we are going to draw a straight line out from here as well. It's a lot of geometry today. So this is going to be point A. Get excited, everybody. From A down to B is going to be the full length, and every time I use these terms, it is considered a measurement. This is measurement 6 on this table from this book. So the full length plus 1/8 of an inch. So for me, looking at that chart, the full length listed is at 19 1/8. So plus another 1/8 of an inch for 19 1/4 inches. So I need to measure from here 19 1/4 inches down, which of course my ruler is only 18. So 19 1/4 is actually down here. And I do need to come out from there as well, it looks like. I'm sure I am off the camera. I am. Oh, I can't even go any lower. Well, shoot. Remember, I'm down here. So I'm just making sure this is 19 1/4 from A to B down here. I'm just squaring out from here. I'm trying to. really use pencil, not marker for this kind of thing. All right, are we all in frame? We've lost the top, huh? I just can't get this camera high enough. I may have to improvise. One moment, please. Oh, yeah. Okay. The camera is now precariously balanced on top of the tripod on top of a chair. So if we timber at any point, that is why. Okay, but now we can hopefully see everything. Can we see everything? We can just about see everything. Okay. Alrighty, so we have from A to B. For me, again, that was 19 1/4. Now from A to C, which is going to be a point out here, it needs to be across shoulder minus 1/8 of an inch. So for me, the across shoulder measurement on that chart is 8 9/16. So of course, minus the 1/8 of an inch, which is 2/16, is 8 7/16. So taking my ruler here, we're going to come out 8 7/16. All right, so we have point C. And we actually do need to square down from that, it looks like, as well. So we can go ahead and square down how far? Square down 3 inches from C. Sometimes they'll tell you. Square down 1, 2, 3 inches from C. All right. Now from B, which is down here, B to D, so we're going to be coming up here. B to D is the center front length, again, from that measurement chart. And that is, for me, 15 5/8. So I'm going to come up here. 15 5/8. So this is going to be D. You can see with the width of my marker how this is very imprecise. You would want to use pencil because it's going to be a much finer point for you. And then square out 4 inches from D. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to square out 1, 2, 3, 4 inches from D. And now we go B to E, which is down along the bottom here. B to E is the bust arc from that chart again, plus 1/4 of an inch. So for me, that's 11 5/8 plus 1/4 of an inch, 2/8 of an inch, equals 11 7/8. So I'm going to come down here and go 11 7/8 is what I said, right? Here, funny enough. I was very close. And this is point E. Sorry, I can't write without knocking the camera over. Square out from B and then square up 11 inches from E. So 11 inches from E here. We're going to square up 11 inches from E, which is just along this line of twos, really. 11 is here. All right, so we have our step 1 of our instructions from this book here. Ta-da. Now, figure 2, we're going to get some more geometry going on here. The nice thing about these illustrations is it shows you the shadow of what you're making underneath, whereas when you're looking at a blank piece of paper, you can't see any of that. We're going to do B to G, which is going to come out angled here. B to G is the shoulder slope from that measurement chart plus 1/8 of an inch. So 19 5/8 is what I need to do here. And again, my ruler is not even long enough, you know? Let's see. I do have a longer one, so we can pull out even a longer ruler if we want to get technical here. And I said, what was it? 19 5/8. 19 5/8 touches the C line, so it's going to touch this line here. Ooh, not ideal. All right, so 19 5/8 is probably around there. This is why maybe I'll use pencil this time. Let's see how close that was. This is 18 right here. 19 and 5. To be fair, that was right on. So, booyah. G touches the C line. So up here, go ahead. This seems so incorrect, but you know, if this all goes to fail, then I'll just do it again, to be honest. All right, So here is this line, B to G. G to H along this line here is the bust depth, which for me is going to be 10¼ inches. 10¼ inches is right here, and that is H. G to I, where is I? Oh, G to I up here. G to I is shoulder length. It's going to be 5 3/16. 5 3/16. And this is point I. J to K, which seems to be down here. J to K bust span from the measurement chart plus 1¼ inches. So that is going to be 4 15/16 for J to K. Square J from J at center front through H. Okay, so we're squaring from here. We're having so much fun, aren't we? Squaring from here, and it needs to be how long, y'all? What did he say? What did I say? This needs to be from J to K, 4 15/16. So 1, 2, 3, 4 15/16. Oh, and look what I did to the line with this ruler. Again, don't use marker like I am. K, and this is J. D to L, 1/2 of D to J. So D to J currently is 7 1/8. Where is this going? I don't do this all the time, guys. D to L. Where is L going? Oh, in the middle. Okay. 1/2 of D to J marked down from D. So this is 7 1/8, so I need 3½ plus 1/16, so 3 9/16. I can do math, guys. D to L, so this is L here. And then L to M, we're going to go out this direction again. Across chest plus 1/4 inch, 7 13/16. All right, 7 13/16. So let's see, 16, 15, 14, 13/16 is right here, and across. There we go. And then this is M here. And then for M, it says square a guideline up and down from M. It doesn't say how long to make that guideline. It just says to square one. So we're going to draw it in pink there for now. Isn't it looking like something? No. L to M. B to F, right? So B down here to F, which seems to be down here. It's where dart placement is. So 4 1/16. 4 1/16, guys. All right. 4 1/16. All right. F. That's right. Square down 3/16 from F. Okay. Square down 3/16 from F. So that's what that is. Are we recording? Oh, thank goodness. All right, I to N. So I up here to point N, which is going to be down here somewhere. It's going to be the new strap measurement plus 1/8. So that's 19 13/16 for me. So I, oh shoot, I'm going to do this again. 13/16. What did I decide that was? Not great. All right, so 19 and like up here, down until it hits this, I'm supposing? Yeah. Draw from line I to intersect the E line. Yep, so around here, again, I'm going to do this in pencil because this is a less accurate ruler. Let's see if I got that. 19, this is 18 again, my ruler is too short. 19, and then I need it to be 13/16. Ah, see, it's not correct. Need it to be like here. Oh gosh. Okay. Such a subtle difference, mates. Okay. All right, so now this is point, what do we say? N, I believe. Now, N to O, which is going to be up in here, is the side length, which for me is 8 7/8. So N to O is along this line, 8 7/8. So 8 7/8 is right here. So this is point O for me. N to P, which is going to come out here, N to P is mark 1 1/4 inch out from N. So I guess they mean squared. So we have 1 1/4 of an inch here, and this is P, and then N to P, check, O to P, which is up here, O to P, side length is directed to P and ends when equal to N to O. Draw a line from P to E. Sorry, what? Draw a line from P to E? Why? What do you want about? P to F. Ah, that's what that says. Okay. Draw a line from P to F. That I can do. The other half of that instruction, not so sure. P to F, that we can do. And then O to P, it looks like, basically is what they're trying to say. Which, for me, is that equaling the side length? 9 inches? And my side length is supposed to be, yeah, it's basically, it's a little bit short, but I think the marker is coming back to bite me in the ass here. So O to P, checkity check. Cool. Where's this part where I square out from O? Ooh, I don't see why on their drawing they have a little line in from O. It seems to be squared in. So I will go ahead and do that. I wish I knew why. It doesn't say. So it seems a little bit of squared out from O. So I'll just add it because why not? Can you see the pattern yet, guys? All right, so from P to Q, P to a new line called Q, where's that going? Down here somewhere. Remember, there's going to be a dart in here, so we're kind of working to create that. So from P to Q is the waist arc measurement plus 1/4 ease minus B to F. What's B to F? B to F, okay. So from B to F on my pattern is 4 1/8. And so I need waist arc, which is 8 5/8 plus 1/4, which is 2/8, so that's 8 7/8. So 8 7/8 minus less B to F. So minus the B to F. Oh my, okay, so 7/8 minus 1/8 is going to be 6/8. Goodness, right? So we need 4 6/8 is what P to Q is. And where is Q on here again? Remind me again. P to Q. Okay, P to Q is along this line, I'm guessing. P to Q. Draw line from K. Where's K? K to F. Okay, this is just drawing the dart legs in. So point Q here is supposed to be, what did I say? 4 6/8. So 4 6/8. This is point Q. My goodness. All right. Look at my hands. Washable markers, eh? These might not even be the washable ones, but I'm going to be washing my hands a lot anyway, as we know, so no worries. P to Q, all right, plus this. Draw a line from K to F. K to F. And let's see. Draw a dart leg from K through Q. K through Q. Okay, so this is our huge dart here. Dart point. Center a point 5/8 inch from bust point. Redraw dart legs from this point. So 5/8 down. They're considering this the apex, K. So 5/8 down here, basically, and they want me to draw my dart legs in from that point. So redraw dart legs to F and R. Where's R? Draw a slight curve from B. Label R. Draw a line from the measure. Draw a dart leg from K to equal to K to F. Okay, so this probably is a little bit longer. So they're saying to find a point a little bit lower here, measure this dart leg and make sure this one is just as long. So, taking my ruler correctly, I'm going to measure this, and that is 8.5. And so I have to make sure that this is also 8.5, which comes down a little bit lower here. So my dart leg needs to come down to here, which is now labeled point R on our instructions here. So draw slightly curved lines from B to F, B to F, B to F here. So this is, you know, hypothetically coming down a little bit. So it's like the world's slightest curve here. And then same here. This needs to be curved up into that, but it's super subtle, no worries. All right, now we have to draw our armhole. It's going to come in here. So they are recommending we use a French curve ruler, so let's do it. All right, so they're showing a French curve ruler to do this. These rulers are, you know, designed for this purpose, so fair enough. Again, this is mine from school, so it has my name on it. They are showing this lined up like so along here. So it says draw armhole curve with rule touching G, and M. Oh, and M. Oh, wow. That doesn't make much sense. G and M. How? What do you want about this line? Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. See, look. Ooh, okay. All right, that should be good. Oh yeah, it's coming away from M a little bit. Square line and square line. Do not follow curve past square line. So don't follow the curve past under here is what it's saying. So I'm going to go ahead and go from G through M down to this squared line out from O. And that is going to be our armhole. Amazing. Magic. Neckline. Draw a curve I to D passing the angle line by 1/8. So I'm allowed to pass... Where did that angled line come in? I down. Over here somewhere. Square down from I to intersect with D line. Oh. Alright. So square down from I to intersect with D line. I skipped one. There we go. This beautiful, no? Just stunning, you guys. So this says that I can come in at least 1/4 of an inch from here, and I'm going like so. 1/8 of an inch it says, which it's about that. So we can draw in our neckline there. Now it's real hard to see in here, but there is actually a bodice pattern in there. Hopefully you can see the bodice pattern sitting inside all these lines. I will go ahead and highlight it using the magic of video editing and Photoshop, etc. to show you the pattern sitting inside of here. Again, this is a single dart pattern right now. I will need to split that into two, like my bodice block that I usually use has 2 darts. I mean, this dart is massive, so you wouldn't, like, it would be very pointy if you just sewed it like this, so it's usually better to split a huge dart into smaller ones, although the darts on my pattern are actually quite large as well. But you can see that my pattern doesn't fit super well inside of here, and that's because my pattern is personalized to fit me perfectly, whereas this one is still from standard measurements. And therefore the pattern on the standardized measurement one, we know this is supposed to have a 34-inch waist, and that would be too big for me with a 30-inch waist, so I would have to take some out of the waist here for it to fit me. And then also my pattern has had, it started this way, but I've also done a full bust adjustment to it to get to here. So that's something else we'll have to talk about, because that is adjusting mostly for like cup size and fullness of the bust, and that's something I have to do to all patterns, including my base standard patterns to get to my version of a base standard pattern. So this is not perfectly this yet, but in the end, after a lot more work, it would be. But that's it for the drafting the front basic block from measurements, just following the instructions in this book. That's how one would draft a pattern from nothing, basically. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same and follow the directions for the back. Battery on this camera wants to die, I should note. Not ideal. Okay, again, I'm going to square a line for us to work with here. But I'm going to be doing it on this side. My patterns, actually, if you've ever noticed my block patterns, my back pattern is facing the same direction as my front one. This is actually incorrect. The back is supposed to face the other direction so that, you know, you can line them up at the waist and see what you're looking at here. So we will draft it correctly today. For whatever reason, mine is just flipped. It doesn't actually affect my life too much, but we'll go ahead and do it correct today. So I'm going down this line of ones here, and I will square a line for us to work with for the back here. All right, so full length A to B, let's mark this A to B, down here somewhere, is the full length, and for the back, for my size chart, it's 19 inches. So we'll go ahead and come down from A, which I will say is right here. Here's 18, 19 inches. So B we will put here. A to C, which is across the top here, squared out, is across shoulder, which for me is 8 and 13/16. Is this really math, guys? Does this count? It's just fractions getting you confused what this is. Square 3 inches down from C. All right, so let's see. 1, 2, 3. B to D, B down here, to D is the center back length, which is marked as 17 3/4 for me. 17 3/4, which is here. So this is D for me here. Mark and square out 4 inches from D. Alrighty. Square out 4 inches from D. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, B to E down here is the back arc measurement plus 3/4 of an inch, which for me equals 11 inches. So I will go ahead and come out 11 inches from B here, which is right here, and label that E. Square up from E, it says. It doesn't say how far, so again, we will use pink. Square up from E. Okay, pal. Are we still recording? Yes. Fabulous. Okay, for the back here, continuing on from A to F. A to F, it's along here. A to F is the back neck plus 1/8 of an inch, which for me is going to be, so 3 5/8 is what I said. God dang. 3 5/8 here, and that is going to be point F. B down here to G, coming out at an angle, is the shoulder slope plus 1/8 of an inch. So that's going to be, for me, 18 4/8 plus the 1/8 of an inch, so 18 5/8. And this is supposed to probably interact with, oh wait, how did I, what, did I not skip it? I did skip a step, surely. B to G, shoulder slope. B to G. I guess they just want me to make this a 45-degree angle, but they don't really say, huh? F to H. I think I need F to H first, mates. It's second on the instructions, but I kind of need that first. Shoulder length plus 1/2 inch. So my shoulder length is 5 15/16 plus 4/16 equals 6 1/16. 6 1/16. F to H is 6 1/16. 6. There's no way, mate. Because it doesn't even hit C.
Oh no, it's so confusing.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna go back to doing what it says. B to G. B to G. It should hit that line, but that line doesn't come down that far, mate. From C down, square 3 inches down from C. That's what we have, right? We've squared 1, 2, 3 inches down from C. Yeah. A to C, across shoulder. A to C. Oh, I think my A to C is wrong, guys. A to C, across shoulder. 8 and 13/16. Oh, I did that wrong. 8 and 13/16. Oh, I'm supposed to be way over here. C. This was wrong. Everything makes more sense now. See, you make one mistake with this kind of thing and it gets really confusing really fast, which is why I always use standardized measurement chart, because it's so easy when you're doing this to make a mistake, like especially with like a ruler, you know, if I'm using it from the wrong direction or something like that, which is probably how I just did that. So like this is all wrong, and I immediately, as soon as I went to the next step, I was like, what the heck is happening? And it's because, just backtrack, you know, just backtrack and you'll start to see what the heck went wrong. Okay, so now this is going to make more sense. I can go back to going to B to G. We're going to create a line G up here, and it seems to be supposed to interact with this, and it would if this ruler was long enough, because it's supposed to be 18 and 5/8, and that's why this is not working out for me, because my ruler is only 18 inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and guess 18 ends right here. So if I had another 5/8, wow, I'm guessing really well with my lines today, guys. I am just saying, on fire. Okay, so now this is G. F to H is the shoulder length plus 1/2 inch, so 5 and 1/16. 5 and 1/16, huh? 5 and 1/16. Bad news, bears. Shoulder length plus 1/2 inch. Oh, 6 and 1/16. Can I read? Is the next question. 6 and 1/16. Is this squared out in any way, shape, or form? I'm confused. F to H, shoulder length of line may pass G. Square down from F to D line. F to D line. Oh, square down from F to D line. Oh. Okay. F to D line. That's very square. I think they mean after you draw this in, which, sure, pal. F to H. How do I know where? I guess because it has to pass through point G. Okay, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. So I need 6 and 1/16. And this is point H. Whew, that took a while. Square down from F to D line. So from here to the D line. Sounds like I'm taking the subway. B to I. Okay, we're going to do the dart now here down along the waist. B to I is the dart placement, which again from my chart is 4 and 1/16. So 4 and 1/16 is right here. So this is point I. B to J is waist arc plus dart intake of 1 3/4 inch. That's just, you know, a standardized dart intake, honestly. It may be different for you because people are not as standardized. So that is supposed to be for me 8 1/4 plus another 1 3/4 for 10 inches. So this should be 10 inches to J, which is right here. J. I to K is the dart intake, which they've just told us is 1 1/2 inches. So 1 1/2 inches is how we get K. Oh, and then L is in the middle of these two things. L is the middle here. Alrighty. Mark center and label L. Yes, exactly. Mark center and label L. J to M. Square down 3/16 of an inch. From J, where's J? to M. All right. 3/16. 1, 2, 3. The top of the J here is now M. That's not confusing at all. And then M to N is the side length, which for me is 8 and 7/8. Yes, 8 and 7/8 is from M to N. So from M to N, which seems to be where that interacts along here, so is 8 and 7/8, which is right there for me. All right, and this is now point N. This marker is destroyed, which is a real shame for us. L to O, which I'm assuming is in here somewhere. L to O is square up from square up from I and K. What? L to O, square up from L 1 inch less than M to N. Great. M to N, 1 inch less than this. Okay, so this is 8 and 7/8. 1 inch less than that is 7 and 7/8. So 7 and 7/8 up from here, mate? Square up from L. Yeah, L. 7 and 7/8. 7 and 7/8. I mean, it concerns me that it doesn't interact with G to B when on their drawing it seems to, but we're just going to keep trucking. Draw dart legs from O, 1/8 of an inch past L and K. Draw slightly curved lines. Okay, so they're saying you're going to come down an extra 1/8 from these guys down here. So like this, and then curve this like that. And then same for over here. Connect this dart leg, but with a little bit extra. And again, you're gonna curve this actually to M, funny enough, down here. Whee! So precise. F to P. For the shoulder dart up here in the back, of course, I always eliminate this dart, so I'm not even thinking about it. F to P is 1/2 of F to H. So F to H here minus 6, so I can come in at 3, and this is now P. P to Q, which is down in here where this dart is going, which is actually connected to this, funny enough. P to Q, draw a 3-inch line in the direction of point O. All right. 1, 2, 3. P to R. P to R is 1/4 of an inch. So it just wants me to go 1/4 of an inch in this direction. Draw a dart leg from Q 1/8 of an inch past R and connect to F. So this was point Q. Forgot to label that. So this up here, 1/8 of an inch past here, and then we're gonna have, connect F to that line basically, and then mark 1/4 inch from P. Oh man. Okay, it says to measure this line then, which is 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/16 for me, and then do the same 1/4 out from P. I do believe that's what that's saying. Okay. So I'm coming 1/4 of an inch out from P, and I'm drawing this to be the same length as this side. And now I will draw, connect to H. Connect to H. Whew, again, I told you this would be fun. S, it's gonna be down here. 1/4 of D to B. D to B in this case being 17 3/4. Well, what's 1/4 of that? 4.43. That's not precise. 4.4-ish here. And this is S. Let's see. mark S to T. This is across here. S to T is a cross back measurement plus 1/4 of an inch. So 7 and 13/16. 7 and 13/16 again. Honestly, that measurement, not my fave. And this is now T. Square up and down from T. Okay. Hold this square. Draw a line there in our friendly pink here. Armhole. Draw armhole with French curve touching H, T, and N. Touching H, T, and N. Can I make this touch all three of those? Possibly not, pal. H, T, and N. Oh, it's seeming to think it should be quite... Ah, yes, I see. It takes a minute to find these. I can't touch T from here. It's alright. This is the kind of thing that on a pattern, you're going to have to find it anyway. It's not... It won't be the final perfect anyway. Trust me, pal. If anything, that needs to be more shallow, I would say. Because this shows it quite shallow as well, even on here. Beep. But like my S to T is not so great for that. 7 and 13/16. Let's just make sure I did that right, because God knows. 7 and 13, yeah, that's right. I'm not hitting T, babes. We'll leave it this way for now. It's fine. If you have to add stuff here on your armhole, you're gonna have to fix your armhole anyway, so whatever. Neckline. Draw 3/8 of an inch from the corner. That's interesting. Draw 3/8 of an inch angle line from the corner. Draw neckline from F. 3/8 of an inch. Okay, that was fun, huh? Shows it like this, and that will be your back neckline. Okay, can we see the back pattern piece in here? Again, I will go ahead using the magic of Photoshop and show you that sitting in here. So now I have a back and a front block sloper pattern situation. This is where it starts to get into talking about fitting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this piece out, and I'm going to cut the front out, and I will show you where I would go from here. Alright, so I have my back and my front here. I went ahead and just cut the darts away and just cutting out the patterns from all that mess. Now I recommend, before going to the next step where you start working with these basic patterns you've just drafted from measurements, in my case from a standardized measurement chart, we still have these confusing lines going on here from when we were drafting this. I think it's best to take these as they are right now and draft them, or trace them onto blank paper again. So trace yourself a fresh copy of this that doesn't have all these lines going on. So I'm going to go ahead and I will trace myself a fresh copy of both of these for us to work with going forward. Now looking at my tracing of the back here, I've left in the dart stuff, and to figure out what shape I need along where the darts are, I'm going to go ahead and fold my pattern with the fullness facing the center back along this dart line and close my dart down here, and I will use that and cut along here so that then I get the correct little slightly peaked shape down here for this dart. And I will do the same up here, folding the fullness towards the center, and I will again slice that to get the correct shape near my darts. And that's just how I always find the shape for my darts, is I fold them towards the center. Some people fold them towards the side seams. I've always been taught towards the center. That's always where I fold my dart fullness, so that's how I'm going to find the darts on this. But this is my back piece. I'll let that aside for now. Folding this gigantic dart closed, and I will snip across to find that dart. Alright, so I now have a tracing of my back and of my front without all these extra lines that could end up confusing us as we continue to work. So this corresponds naturally with, let's say, this is my bodice block here, and this is my front. So we can start to see, for example, how much extra width there is here. How even mine is a little bit bigger in the back. So instead of having to take off from the waist in the back of this new one, I would need to add some. And then looking at this, the armhole is a very different shape. This is from the full bust adjustment compared to this sloper. And my neckline is higher than this is. But like you can see where this width is almost the same. And of course this is still shaped completely differently because I have a second dart opened up into here. So how do we get from a 1 dart to a 2 dart? Well, that is an easy fix. So let's, this is the apex point. So we can go ahead and, like anytime we're splitting a dart out, we can just come pick a point over here. Does not have to be precise. We're going to snip up our dart leg here. Snip out over here. And then I will go ahead and take half of this fullness, close it, and open it out over here. I'll go ahead and take exactly half of that fullness. Just take some tape here and close the waist dart half the way and open it up into here. And we can already see how this is going to make the shape a little bit more like my friend here. I mean, a lot more like my friend that actually fits me. So, like so. So I will go ahead and fill this in with paper, and then we will do a full bust adjustment to this as well, because I just know that I need it. If you are someone who is a larger C cup plus, you're probably going to need a full bust adjustment. Possibly the standardized measurements are going to be too full of a bust for you, and you will need a bust, like minimize. I don't know what it's, full bust adjustment, I guess a slim bust adjustment? I'm not sure what it's called. I will link a blog post about, the blog post that I used when I modified mine, that I found on the internet when I was looking into why does my bust of my block fit weirdly. I found this blog post. This is what I used originally to make this pattern, and what I will use today, those instructions to modify this one to show you all how it is done. But first I need to fill this in with paper, so let's do that. This time the fullness gets folded down, by the way, and we find that again here. This gets like that. So now we have a 2 dart bodice pattern. So let's go ahead and look at the instructions for how to make this have a full bust adjustment. So I'm going to be linking the blog posts that I used when doing my full bust adjustment several years ago to my pattern, and we'll be using again today in the description below. It looks like it's from a blog called the Curvy Sewing Collective, I believe, which, you know, is probably full of useful posts, honestly. But the first step in doing the full bust adjustment is to come up through the center of this dart down here. Let me just actually find the proper center now that I've modified it a little bit. So this is 2 1/4, so 1 1/8 here is going to be our center of this dart, and we're going to come up through the apex all the way to the top here, but my ruler is again only so long, all the way up here. And then we're going to come from the apex to a point, they say about 1/3 of the way down into the arm side here. So I will draw that, and then we're going to come into this dart as well. Now we need to draw a line from the middle of this dart to the apex as well. So again, I'm just going to confirm the center of this dart, and then come over to my apex here. Now they want us to draw a line from the center front to just above where the waist dart ends. I don't know what just above means, but we're going to go with, let's say, 1/2 inch, like so. So now that we have these lines drawn, we can go ahead and cut up along the center of this waist dart through the apex and along this point, leaving it a little bit connected up here so that we can hinge from here. And we're also going to want to be able to hinge through this dart as well. So let's cut down the center of that Because of course all this extra fullness we're adding into the pattern, we want to add that as much as we can into the darts. So now, to do a full bust adjustment, what you're going to be doing is adding fullness in here. So you kind of have to make a judgment call on how much adjustment you're going to need. If your pattern is way too small, I'm sure the blog post goes into how much to add here, but I know for a fact from doing this before, to my pattern before, that I need a 1/2 inch to be added in here. So you separate this out so that you have a 1/2 inch corridor along here, all along this center of this dart. Now you can see how that opens up a little bit here, and that opens up a little bit here. This is adding more fullness for your bust. And this actually does make this angle, you know, a little bit more acute as well. So I will go ahead and tape pattern paper in here so that there is a 1/2 inch all along this little corridor. Okay, so it looks like the last step actually before I tape this down is to cut along this last line that we had put in. It's nice that my table is so dark so you can see these things. So this is so that you can reline this up down here, and so it will again create a little bit of space in there. So I will fill in paper in all these dark blue areas of split in our pattern here. Basically you want to keep this waistline the same, because when you pulled this, if you pull this down to create that 1/2 inch, you can see that this is now not at the same level anymore, so you want to be able to move this down so it's at the same level. So I'm going to go ahead and tape some paper underneath into these spots. I've decided that I'll show you how exactly I'm going to do this in a precise way. So I've taped down this section onto a bit of paper here, and I'm going to go ahead and draw along this line that 1/2 inch that I'm supposed to have this opened up. So I can put this here, back where it was, and I can put this back where it was, and when I slide this, I want it to match up with that 1/2 inch, and then I need to, of course, again, make sure that this line is still lined up, which I think I'm good to go here. So I just have to fill that in with a bit of spare paper here, along here, and then I have to fill in this side as well. You end up using a lot of your scraps, you know, doing these things. But you do go through a lot of Scotch tape, which is just not very environmentally friendly. Alright, so now I have my spaces filled in and I can trim this stuff off. Again, I should probably fold that to find how I need it to go eventually. So now you've kind of lost your apex. You can kind of still see it here, and the blogger I'm following along with here recommends holding this pattern piece up to you and finding your personal apex and marking your apex on here. So to do that, you would hold this up to your body and kind of figure out, like maybe pinch these closed. You can kind of see me doing this in my 1920s dress video. I will put a card up to that one here. There's a section in there. I will put the timestamp on screen now to show you what time in that video to go to, where I'm holding something up to me and I'm marking the apex with a marker on my body. And that is what you're going to want to do with this. You could even cut this out of muslin or spare fabric and hold that up to your body, pin the darts closed, and find your personal apex and mark it on the pattern. I'm probably just going to go for our sake right now and just go in and choose a point right next to here, and then you would go ahead and you would reconnect your dart legs down from that new apex point down wherever your apex was. And if it was lower or higher, you know, that's going to be something that is really good to know. So let's say your apex was actually over here, then you would connect your dart legs to that new apex. You want it to match your body because it's going to be your pattern, you know, personalized for you. So those are my new basic dart legs. I'll probably end up doing this in marker for you. Again, you want to come out from the apex. You don't want your darts to go straight up to the apex because they will then be incredibly pointy. So I'm going to come down an inch. The standard and I'm just centering this between the two dart legs, by the way. The standard, I think, is 5/8, but that's for really best for smaller busts. The larger your bust is, the farther out you're going to have to come down from this, because of course your like sort of central apex zone is larger if you are larger. And so for me, I usually come at least 1, if not 1¼ inches out from the apex when I'm drawing my dart legs. So then again, you would come from that point and mark your new dart legs in. Try not to smear this marker too terribly. And you will see in a second here how much closer this pattern looks like to my own personal pattern. Remember, this is the one that we drafted from scratch. So again, to find those points, I will again close these darts. Try and do it properly. And slice off the extra. Oof. This is actually not supposed to be here. And again, up here, close the dart and slice off the extra. Okay. So now we have done a full bust adjustment to this pattern. And we can go ahead and look at it compared to my actual pattern here again. So we can see that this pattern is still technically too big for me, which is no surprise, because again, it was still drafted from that standardized measurement where it was going to be too wide in the waist. I couldn't find too big in the waist for me. This pattern would be still. Now I'm just getting Yoda-tastic. Too big in the waist would this be for me still? I don't know. It's like Shakespearean Yoda. What's happening there? So this pattern that we've drafted today would be a little bit big on me. You can see that this is still a little bit different here. And like, you know, at this point you have a pattern. And like, just like cutting out any pattern from Simplicity, McCall's, Butterick, whatever, it's not going to fit you right out of the package. This is a right out of the package pattern. It's going to need a lot of fixes before this basic standardized block sloper becomes your block. I would say like this is a sloper at this point and this is a block. This is all the modifications made to it that I like and that I feel fit me best. So to get from here to here took me about 5 or 7 rounds of muslins. So cutting this out of muslin, sewing it together, sewing the darts, sewing the shoulder and side seams, seeing how that muslin fit, figuring out where my fit problems were, and adjusting the pattern to the next round. Making that up in muslin, adjusting again, making muslin after muslin until I got to my pattern that fits me, in my opinion, you know, nearly perfectly. I mean, you're not going to ever achieve a perfection in these kinds of things, but especially all on your own. If you have like a fit assistant or someone like a great seamstress in your life that can help you with this kind of thing, that's obviously going to be better. But to get from a standardized pattern, something right out of the envelope from Joann's or drafted straight from standardized measurements, to something that fits you, a real human, perfectly, it's going to take several rounds. That's why when you buy a new commercial pattern, like let's say any pattern, this is just one sitting here, you know, you would have to make a mock-up of something if you wanted to achieve perfect fit. You can't just rely on these, you know, standardized patterns to fit you. And the same is true of something like this, which is drafted from standardized measurements. So you still have a lot of work to go from here to get to a block that you can use the way I do here on my channel all the time without fail, knowing it's going to fit me. Like I use this no matter what I do, unless I really screw up. Anything I draft from this is going to fit me because I've done all of that work to get this one. So if you've gotten this far, either you did what we did today and you drafted this from measurements from scratch completely, or you buy a block or basic 2-dart bodice pattern and then fit that. I think it's worth just skipping doing this from scratch. You don't have to do it from scratch to be like a real pattern drafter or real seamstress. Like, screw all that nonsense. However you get to making your finished clothes, the step after this, it doesn't really matter. If you bought a pattern, if you made a pattern, I'm not into the elitism around these kinds of things. If you want to do it from scratch, to be able to say you did it from scratch, go for it. I'm just telling you it's going to take a little bit of extra time and a lot of extra patience, basically. But to get from here to here, it requires Googling. It requires several muslins. Go get yourself some muslin fabric on sale, or buy old sheets or fabric at thrift store, for example, is a good thing to do this with. Fabric that, you know, no one may ever use. Just buy some like single sheets at the thrift store, wash those puppies, and use that as muslin to make several rounds of muslins fitting things to you. You'll find out, oh, the bodice is too long. Google how to adjust bodice length on pattern. There are going to be people who can help you. Say, darts pinching funny. Type that into Google. Darts pinching funny. Something will be able to help you. Weird fold at back shoulder in pattern fix. There will be people to help you. So I can't help you with your specific fit issues because I've likely never dealt with them before. I've only ever encountered the fit issues on my own body. So I know what I encountered when I was going from here to here, but I don't know what you are going to encounter when you're going from a basic pattern, like commercial standardized pattern, to your personal block sloper pattern that you'll be able to use from now until your body changes. Unfortunately not for forever, because bodies also change, which is a shame. So I'm going to link in the description of this video a blog post on my blog from several years ago when I was redoing this pattern here, where I encountered several fit issues, first learned about the full bust adjustment, things like that, what I encountered, how I Googled to find fixes, and a couple of fit resources that are good places to start looking when you're looking to go ahead and fit a pattern like this to fit you perfectly. But that is how you draft one of these basic front and back bodice patterns from measurements, from instructions in a book like Patterns, Pattern Making for Fashion Design. So I've been putting off this video for forever. I think we can see why. It's very in the weeds. I consider it almost an unessential thing. I think you can buy a fitting shell sloper pattern, or like I talked about in the other video again that I had put in a card earlier, modify a commercial pattern to fit you, and you don't have to do this from scratch. You don't have to do it from measurements like I just did. It's not essential in any way, shape, or form. But if you're just interested to see how these kind of things take shape from a standardized measurement, that's how it's done. And like for me, if I wanted to continue fitting this to me, I would have to go through those several rounds of muslins, figuring out the various fit issues, taking some of the waist away because I know the waist in this is going to be too big. The arm side will have to be fit completely because this is no doubt just, a standard arm side, and mine would need to be different. The shoulder line may need to be fixed. All kinds of fixes that could still need to be done to something like this. So better to start with a pattern like this and do fit from there than to have to make this and then have to do fitting, because it's just a lot of work. Again, because I was following the instructions in this book so closely, following this recipe basically to make this block sloper, I don't want to monetize this video because I don't own this content. So I'm not going to be putting ads on this video. So if you could all do me a favor and watch one of my other videos today, just to make up for the fact that I'm not going to be making anything from this one. So go back and watch one of your favorites today, if you wouldn't mind helping me out. Possibly one of my lookbooks. Those don't get very many views compared to like a thrift haul. So help me out and go watch one of those if you wouldn't mind. Just because putting this video together, this video for you today, took some effort, but I don't want to monetize it because this book isn't mine. I didn't write it, but I do highly recommend it. But hopefully some of you found this video helpful. I'm glad to have finally made it and can check it off my list. Of course, ask me any questions you have in the comments below as usual, and I will try and answer them to the best of my ability. And of course, if you have additional questions about fit or things like how to fix, but my shoulder came out really weird, try typing, but the shoulder came out really weird on pattern, like into Google, and you will be surprised how many helpful blog posts come up. So the internet will solve most of your problems for you if you learn to search strategically. But as always, thank you all so much for watching today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.